Hello everyone, this is Tim, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the prep work that I've been doing for my 7 games I'm going to be running in my local convention. Now, whenever I think about running a one-shot at a convention, I try to think up some sort of gimmick or something that's just a little bit more than I would normally do for a campaign. Just try to make that one-shot just a little extra special. For my 3 Labyrinth Lord games I'm going to be running 3 modules from Small Niche Games. And I've done a review of those 3 modules before. They are the Inn of Lost Heroes, the Pyramid of the Dragon, and Blood Moon Rising. Those are the 3 I'm going to be running. But I found this character sheet online that you could make into small booklets. You basically fold it into like 8 sections and just make little booklets for your characters. So I thought that was something novel. I've never really played a game with like a little tiny character sheet like this, a little pocket character sheet. And what I did was I went online and I found some character bios, not character bios, but character pictures, and I just sort of clipped them out and pasted them on the front so that all the characters have a little picture to go along, just to sort of like, you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words sort of deal. Like that's a halfling right there. And I just thought this would be kind of neat to just sit on the table, and all of my games pretty much are full. There are a few that have like 1 seat left. One of my games had 3 alternates already, which is pretty good. I'm impressed. So I'm definitely going to be running all my games this time. So for my 3 adventures with these guys, I'm going to actually use all these characters for all 3 adventures. I figured that would save myself some time and effort. I'm going to have them sort of level up between the 2nd and 3rd module, I guess. But in addition to doing this, you know, like I said, there's like, I guess you would call it like, you know, 4 different pages for this. And you just kind of tape them together. Like one's of stats and weapons and abilities, magic items, equipment, spell book, that sort of stuff. So that's that. In addition to that, instead of having just like boring white paper printed up with all the spells, I don't have multiple copies of the Labyrinth Lord books. So what I decided to do is go get the free PDF that I have and just print up all the different spells in sort of a handwriting font. And this paper, I don't know if you can tell, is the old paper I got from that old photo album from my creepy old picture video that I did. You know, the one that Brady likes so much. And I basically just cut them in half so that I could feed it through my printer. So with the handwritten script, you know, the font, I just went through and just listed all the spells that each character has. So each of the elves / magic users have their own spell books. And for the clerics, I just basically just printed up all the 1st and 2nd level cleric spells. So, you know, the clerics got theirs. You know. So I just thought it would be kind of cool. You know, these are laying out on the table so that they're just sort of like a nice feel to them. And like I said, this paper is very old. This paper is, I don't know, if you fold the edges, it cracks. And it just has a nice feel to it. It actually has like an old smell to it, sort of. It's a little bit musty, just sort of like paper that you left maybe like in an old shed or something for like 20 years. So I think that's going to add to the effect of the game. I don't know, I thought that was pretty interesting. What's nice about the Labyrinth Lord games is that they're all modules, so I really didn't have to do as much prep work. And another thing that's nice that I just did this year, I've never ran more than 1 game, you know, the same type at a convention before. So running 3 Labyrinth Lord games actually saved me a lot of work, because I could just make characters for all 3 of them. Any props I made, like the spell books and so forth, could be used in all 3 games. So that really saved me a lot of time. I'm definitely going to have to do that in the future. Because in the past, I've run like 5 different RPGs, and it's a lot of work making up just the pre-generated characters and so forth. The next game that I am going to run, I talked a little bit about this before in a video, is Assassin X. Now, Assassin X is it's a game about serial killers, professional assassins, or whatever. And the way that I've taken this game is sort of the Rob Zombie House of a Thousand Corpses kind of thing, where it's a family of serial killers. And so there's a father, there's a mother, and there are 4 kids. And the creepy thing about the game that's sort of evolved over time is that it's sort of Leave It the Beaver with family values and serial killer stuff thrown in there. So you'll have like the father that's, you know, educating their children on how to do things. I don't know. It's a terrible game. And I don't mean terrible in the fact that it, you know, it doesn't work. It works very well for what it does. But every year I run this, I tell myself this is going to be the last year. I'm not running anymore. But I have sort of like I don't want to say cult following, but there are lots of players that just ask me through the year, "Are you going to run Assassin X again?" You know, I think it's that I don't know. People are just frustrated and they want something to let off steam, and this game lets off steam like no other game I know of. Yeah. So the prep work that I do for this game is very unlike any prep work I've done for any other game. I don't even know if I can show most of these. Basically what I do is I go online, and you can see I have quite a big stack of printed pages here. And I don't know if you can see any of that. I just take pictures and from online sources about whatever we're doing, people that they're going to kill, people that have done bad things to them, and it's time for revenge. And I just scribble angry phrases with markers, for instance. Yeah. And they're all disturbing. I really just, I take off all the filters and I think the worst thoughts I can possibly think. And usually I'll watch some serial killer movies. I didn't do that this year. Just to sort of get in the right mindset before I do this. But there probably is. You know, my printer hates me this time of year. There's probably like 60 different pictures. And I have them divided between the 3 kids. The 4th kid's too young, but the 3 kids that are going to high school. And they basically just picked out all the people that you know, bullied them, treated them like crap, started rumors about them, bad teachers. I think you get where this is going. This is probably going to be my last year for running Assassin X. The players all suggested going back to school, so that's the theme. It's kind of disturbing, and yeah, I think I'm going to go out with a bang with that one. What I forgot to mention about Assassin X is that is all my prep work. I've used the same characters for like the last 4 years, and so that I don't have to make new characters for that. So really my only prep work is printing out pieces of art and photographs of people and just writing terrible things on the pictures. And I just hand them out to the players. And then they plan what they're going to do, and then I tell them what happens as consequence to what they do. So, like I said, that's very unlike games that I've run in the past where it's very photo-oriented or picture-oriented. The next game I'm going to be running is my weird Pittsburgh game, and that's going to be using BRP, D100 Roll Under generic game. And the idea is that downtown Pittsburgh, I don't know if you can see that, probably not, where the 3 rivers, you know, the Ohio River and the Monongahela and Allegheny all come to meet, there is going to be a circle. Basically, just like a large circle here that's going to take out a big chunk of Pittsburgh. And there's just going to be this energy dome over top of it. And the idea is that aliens are coming or whatever. But the weird element comes in when the characters start to change, morph, turn into things that they weren't before. And I printed out things like, you know, alien pictures, things like that, just as sort of like visual references. I printed out things about Pittsburgh. I plan to print out a Pittsburghese reference for the players, and that's so that the players can talk with a Pittsburgh accent. You could probably even Google that, or not, just go on YouTube and find the Pittsburgh accent. But the thing that I did for this game, which actually I have to give props to my friend Dan, who is one of the Royal Court members of the GASP club. I have 10 character sheets here. And actually, because there's 10, there's actually 30 character sheets here. Each character has 3 different character sheets. And what I did was I had 4 sheets of paper, and I had some old UPS tape. I figured it was black and gold, and I don't know, I just went with it. I think I'm actually going to incorporate some UPS shenanigans into the mix, but I'm not going to say much more about that. So the first character sheet is basically like a normal person. Like, for instance, they have a concept like retired lawyer / cat lady. That's this character, Marge. So she has a normal character sheet, stats, skills, and just the generic stuff that she has with her. I wanted to do everyday people from Pittsburgh. And the idea is I have taped the edges with more of that tape, and I stapled the edge on this side. So you really can't look too far in here. The third page I just have as a filler so that you can't see the back. And what's going to happen is at certain points during the game, I'm going to hand out scissors, and they're going to cut through this tape on the edge so that they can get to the next character sheet. And mainly this is just to keep the players from peeking. Some characters are going to be opening theirs faster than others, depending on what happens and what choices they make. There's going to be like alien saucers flying through the air. They're going to take on strange forms. And I've used the optional power systems of mutations and psychic abilities for this game. So some of them are going to be able to do stuff with their mind. Other ones are going to be horribly disfigured in weird and strange ways. And it's going to be interesting to see the looks on the faces of the players when they cut this section on the side and really see what's happened to their character. Another thing, too, is, as they change, their skills will be changed as well. I bumped up some of their stats in places if it made sense. If you grow gills on the side of your neck, you're going to be able to swim better. Just things like that. So that took me a lot of work. I actually enlisted my wife to help me copy some of the stats and skills that didn't change from character sheet to character sheet. So I have to give props to her. She does try to help me out this time of year because she realizes that I always bite off more than I can chew. I just like to make the schedule look neat. If there's a game that's lacking, I try to come up with something different. Alright, so that's pretty much my BRP Weird Pittsburgh game. Alright, next game I'm going to be running, this is going to be in the midnight slot, is Vampire the Masquerade. And I'm actually going to be running 2nd edition instead of revised. I just sort of like 2nd edition better. It's more of a Camarilla game, so Alikov out there, I'll be like, no! But I just sort of like the Camarilla games better, I think. I think I might try a Sabat game if someone would run it in the local area. But as a general rule, people who run Vampire around here only run it for short periods of time, and then the campaign dies. So I've only really been able to play in mini campaigns or one-shots. It's kind of frustrating. But anyway, what I'm going to be doing for this campaign is I'm going to be running the Succubus Club, which is a 1st edition vampire book, but it actually was put out in the Chicago Chronicles. So this book actually has 2 parts. One kind of goes into Chicago itself. The second half goes into the Succubus Club and everything that's there, as well as a bunch of adventures. So I just picked one of the adventures that seemed to be fairly straightforward, but with a lot of room for characters to do what they want to do. And I think this will work well for a midnight game. The characters I just pulled out, 9th generation characters right out of the Chicago book. So I didn't really have to generate too much there. I printed off the, drawings of the different characters. I don't know if you can see that. Things like that. And basically just put those on the character sheets just to kind of give a little bit of fluff. And the gimmick for this game is I think I'm going to buy a bunch of Code Red, Red Pop, Soda Pop, and maybe even a rose, just to sort of lay on the table. Because there's periods of time between games where people are just wandering around, like, ooh, what's going on? What's happening? And I've noticed that if you have something on the table, something out of the ordinary that other games don't have, you're going to look around and you're going to see, character sheets just from a printer. But when you look around and you see something that's a little out of the way, not the same as everyone else, you see a rose, you're like, what the hell is this guy doing? There's roses on the table. Or maybe even carnation, I don't know. For obvious reasons, I thought of the rose because of the front cover. But I don't know. I'll have to see how much money I want to invest in. I don't know. I think roses aren't that expensive. But, I printed off maps of the Succubus Club itself, just so I have something on the table to show the players, where they're at, where they're going. Maps of Chicago I printed off. so that, you know, in case they want to go outside and do other things, they're more than welcome to. Just things that I thought about doing to make it more interesting. And I believe I have 4 players signed up for this, so that's probably a pretty easy number to run for. That's pretty much Vampire. Alright, and the last game I'm going to be running, this is going to be game number 7, see what I mean, I just bite off more than I can chew, is going to be Hunter the Reckoning. And this is basically the old World of Darkness Hunter. Instead of Hunter the Vigil, it's Hunter the Reckoning. And for this game, I'm really going to rip off the movie Frailty. I like the idea of the characters being children to a father that they're not so sure about. I'm calling it Daddy Knows Best. The father is going to be a person that thinks that demons are in the world and they inhabit people, and the only way to remove them temporarily is to kill their host, which would be the people that they're possessing. So their father, you know, they've basically grown up in this situation. Their father kidnaps people, takes them into the basement, and kills them. He doesn't really torture them or anything. Sometimes he might question them, but he's a very upstanding, you know, member of society, PTA. He volunteers for Habitat for Humanity, you know, that sort of stuff. And the idea is that the kids are going to start out as people that are not imbued, and that's the word the hunter uses for, you know, basically having those strange abilities to hunt monsters and do things to monsters, interact with monsters, that sort of thing. And mostly my game prep for this was the characters, thinking about their ages, who was the eldest, who was the youngest, boys and girls. In all of these games, for one-shots, especially conventions, I always try to include female characters. Now, the reason I do this is that there are women that play games, and they tend to come to conventions. At least they seem to come to conventions more so than like a normal gaming night or something like that, in my opinion. That's just things I've noticed. So I always try to make sure that those are options. Those options are available, and that guys can play female characters too. It's not a big deal, at least for most of them. But another thing I did is I just printed out like an old house, and it's a layout, you know, so you have like 2 different floors. So I basically just have, you know, the giant house that they live in, you know, because he has 6 kids, and there's no mother in the picture. And I'm actually going to let the players modify these slightly. I'm going to give them some extra freebie points to spend on things before we start, just to sort of cater to what they want the characters to be. I'll give them a little bit of flexibility. And then I'm going to see what happens. They don't have any hunter edges. So during the game, as they do things, I'm going to determine what sort of hunter creed they are following. If they're being more attacking things, they're going to be an avenger. And if they're, you know, worried about defending other people, they might be a defender. Things like that. And then I'm going to hand out the edges and fill out their character sheets as we go. So to start, they're really just playing mortals, and depending on what happens, you know, maybe they're going to help their father, maybe they're going to rebel against their father, maybe there's a split down the line and the characters are going to kill each other, you know, brother on sister violence, that sort of stuff. I'm going to be really curious to see how this plays out, and I really don't have a set way that it's going to happen. And that's pretty much my games I'll be running. I took off a few days from work because I have lots of work to do, and I just wanted to show you guys what's going on. Alright, I'll talk to you guys later.